This episode is brought to you by Audi. The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power, serious acceleration, and advanced Audi tech. It's not just a new EV. It's a new way to experience driving. The all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron is here. The next chapter of Audi starts now.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
You're listening to the Animation Addicts Podcast, episode 296. What happened to live-action kid movies?
Welcome to the Animation Addicts Podcast with the Rotoscopers, the #1 place to get your animation fix with animation addicts just like you. Each episode, we dive into the wonderful world of animation featuring Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, and everything in between. From hilarious discussions and movie reviews to interviews with industry insiders, this show's mission is to brighten your day through our love of animation. So hop on your nerdy couch, grab some snacks, and get ready to hang out with your animation besties because it's time to dive into today's episode.
Hey there, Animation Addicts. I'm Morgan Stradling.
And I'm Chelsea Robson.
We're here back with another great episode today. This is a nerdy couch discussion. So sit back, get your butt groove ready, lean back into that couch. We're going to be discussing something really fun, something nostalgic, something from our childhood, and something that, do they even exist anymore? Because that's the question of the day. So we are talking about live action kid movies.
Yeah, when you mentioned this to me, I was very excited to get on this one because, and even though we mostly talk about animated movies, there was a very set time of my life being a millennial that my life was filled with a lot of these amazing kid movies that still live rent free in my mind. So when you mentioned that they weren't actually happening anymore, I was like, you're right. Why? What is going on? What happened?
So Detective Morgan is on the case, and I am going to be figuring it out for you. So never you fear. This episode is brought to you by Amazon.com. An easy way to support the show is to use our Amazon affiliate link. Go to rotoscopers.com/Amazon. Click that and get shopping. Whether you are buying animation books like some of the amazing books we talked about in our last episode, or if you're just buying some great movies because it's surprising. Physical media is making a comeback. Amazon is a great place to buy new or used. It's a wonderful marketplace, and you can get your old favorites. So if you're wanting to go back and watch some of these live action kid movies so you can just own them and relive your glory days, well, was our childhood the glory days? I don't know. We'll talk about that. Go to rotoscopers.com/Amazon. We receive a small commission for everything you purchase at no cost to you, and it's just a really simple, easy way to support the show. It helps keep the lights on. It does take a wee bit to keep a podcast going and a website up and running, and just by you guys shopping and using your link every single time, it really does help the show, and we appreciate it so, so much.
Lowe's knows what makes SpringFest savings even better are member-only doorbuster deals. Right now, rewards members can save $40 on an Allen & Roth Chesler Gold faucet. Was $99, now $59. Plus, save $110 on a Cobalt 40-volt battery trimmer and blower combo kit. Was $279, now $169. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 3/24 while supplies last. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Uh-oh, the last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
All right, let's jump into this.
Kids movies. Whoop, whoop. So we are millennial children. We grew up in the 80s and 90s, and it just was such a great time to be alive. I really believe that we were the golden age, and everyone's going to say that about their childhood, but we didn't necessarily, the internet was, as we were moving into our teenage years, the internet was starting to become a thing. As children, we weren't connected to things. Like, you'd watch TV and you'd play video games for sure, but you still went outside and you still played, and there was that sense of adventure. And you had to put the VHS tape in and rewind. Someone stopped it midway through, and I gotta rewind it. You're sitting there and you're rewinding. Just the anticipation of like, come on, I'm watching my movie.
It was just such an era of progression. Like, everything was progressing. It was just getting better every year. It just felt like there was so many new things happening. And I feel like, especially because I was like 10 or 12 or so when we first got a computer, and we were like one of those early adopters. Like, we weren't, my dad was always an early adopter type guy. And so we had like it was like one of the very first, like, Windows 95, man. We were right on it. And I just remember when the internet was becoming a thing and being like, oh my gosh, here we go. So it's like, there was so many things to be excited about.
There were discs for computer games in your cereal box. I remember there was a Doom knockoff that was called, I think, Chex Quest. And you got the CD and you would put it in your computer and, I guess assume and pray that they didn't have malware because they were just so benevolent. And you would play this video game.
Oh my gosh. No, you didn't even know that like malware was a thing.
Right, exactly. You just trusted, like, cool, free game.
Oh man, these were great times.
Mm-hmm. It got me thinking, because when I think of the movies of my childhood, I remember, there was the Saturday where you'd turn on the TV and there was like the knockoff local channel that just kind of played random movies from time to time.
Yeah.
And I remember a lot of these movies, I remember them because they would always come up on these stations. And then I'm thinking, well, what happened to all those movies? They don't really make movies for kids anymore, especially like live action movies. So I went down the rabbit hole. I did some research and we're going to discuss it today. So when I'm talking about these child live action kids movies, specifically, I'm referring to ones that have a child protagonist as the lead, because I think that's one thing that makes these stand out is that the kid actor is the star. And you as a kid really relate to them. And so these really are kids' movies in the fact that most adults really aren't going to be into watching these movies. There are obviously exceptions. I think Home Alone is a big one. Harry Potter can be considered one. But, for most adults, not going to be putting Three Ninjas on or Blank Check, right? Because it's just does
a kid in King Arthur's court.
Yes, they're not. That's not for them. That's not. Trust me. There are so much better things that the adults want to be watching.
Right.
And I feel like these really had a heyday. They really started picking up in the 80s. Obviously they're around in the 60s, 70s. You think of Pollyanna, you think of The Parent Trap, Old Yeller, movies like that. They were around, but then in the 80s we have Goonies, and that really stands out as a flagship one of these movies, and E.T. And then the 90s, I feel like there was just a proliferation of these, and
also with the home video market, it became much more of a thing that people would be like, okay, let's, it was the start of put your kids in front of the TV and give them the thing that they want. And so I think that's had an effect on it.
Yeah, I have a chart here, and it's the total movies by year that have, that are a total number of films aimed at children. And, towards in the 80s, there was maybe anywhere from 8, some years a little higher, 15. So anywhere between 8 and 15, but probably on average 10.
Uh-huh.
And then once we hit the 90s, it really spikes, and there's like 18, probably 17, 17. And then 1995 was like 10 full year. It has never been beaten. 39 films,
Wow.
and there's just tons and tons and tons. It goes down around the year 2000, still, 15 at that point in time, but it keeps increasing, where on average there's over 20 per year. This goes up till 2015 was where this graph came, and this was pretty good data, from this point in time. So, and then I also took that movies per year that had a child protagonist. And in 1980, there was only one, and there's, for a few years that don't have any. 6 was the highlight in 1986. And then again, going back to 1994, there's 23 kids movies that have a kid protagonist, 95. And you're thinking about these. Generally, you're thinking of Sandlot, you're thinking of Little Rascals, all of these movies kind of coming around. Those Casper, you're thinking around the same year. Huge surgence in the 90s of these movies, probably, anywhere from 10 to 20. And then it starts going back down in the mid-2000s, 2000s. It's around 7 to 10, and from 2010 on, there's 12 in 2010, and 2015 had 7, so we're kind of going back down to early 90s levels. Still a little higher, but the problem with this, it's
more consistent.
Number of films with a child protagonist or with a child driving the narrative. But the thing is with this, animated films are included in this. So this isn't strictly, live action. And so then animated films versus child protagonist animated. And there's tons of animated films that have been coming out since, just there's no peak in 95. 95 is kind of like just a normal year. 2010 is where there was 16 animated films released around 2010, 2011-ish. But as far as animated films that have kid protagonists, it's usually 1 or 2, if that, per year. The things with animated films, they can have these adult stars or adult characters, but still it kind of fits into that family-friendly mold. So live action films, and then last chart is the number of live action children's films featuring a child protagonist each year. So this really does line up, this more so than the animated films. Like if a live action film, for kids, it's going to have a child for the most part being the star. Probably 80% of the time. And I'll include these graphs in the show notes and the link to the article where I got them from. But, really these live action films, they peaked in the 90s. And I'm going to just go through just a list. I kind of mentioned a few already, but, get ready. Eat some member berries and just get ready for them to be flooded with nostalgia. You have Goonies, E.T., in no particular order. Home Alone, Blank Check, Home Alone 2, Three Ninjas Kickback, Free Willy, Flipper, Casper, Sandlot, Little Rascals, Mighty Ducks, Dennis the Menace, Christmas Story, A Night in King Arthur's Court. I just love saying that because it's so obscure.
I know.
Shark Boy and Lava Girl, Harry Potter, Spy Kids, Agent Cody, the one with Malcolm in the Middle, so those are just a random sampling that I came up on the top of my head. Were there any ones that you remember or from this list that just really stand out?
Oh, I mean, the ones Blank Check is
I love Blank Check. It's just such a perfect kids concept, right? Like, here, kid, I run over your bike. Here, just write do whatever you want.
It needs. And it's like $1 million. And he gets this giant castle in the middle of the neighborhood. It's like, what?
It's so good.
Like, now, as a kid, you're like thinking, oh, $1 million, that's so much money. And now I'm like, oh man, like every house is like $1 million.
I know.
Like,
I could buy a starter home.
Right, exactly. It's like the home he was in was probably worth more than $1 million now. Oh man, and when you like Casper, that one was a big one that I was like, wow, that one really hits. But and the Indian in the Closet.
Oh, Indian in the Cupboard. Yes, my son is reading that book. It's so good.
Like there's all these random movies that are like they really just were like, all right, let's get them all and put them all on VHS.
Yes,
and that's what happened.
No, they made them. These came out in theaters, and I remember going to the movie. I think there was just more of a culture of movie going, and so they and animated films really hadn't taken off. In 95 is when Toy Story comes out,
right?
And we'll talk about the reasons why this died, but. Just the market kind of changed at that point in time. So, I'm trying to think now, like we don't get movies like this anymore, but we really, if we're going to get a kid movie like this, it usually is live action with an animated character.
Yes.
So, you have Clifford, Paddington, Sonic, which is a third one's coming out this year.
Yeah.
Alvin and the Chipmunks, which have had a few. The Peter Rabbit had Peter Rabbit 1 and 2. It's usually just this one animated character that's the draw for the kids. Yeah. And it's usually like an animal character. That's why they can CGI it versus a child-led character.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sad because I'm like, okay, these are fine films, but they just don't have that sense of wonder and childhood whimsy.
Yeah. And I think that there was a factor that I've seen where it's like with the big tentpole movies, like the Marvels, you throw out some of the big Marvel movies, the Endgame and whatnot, and it's like all these theaters are all of the theaters plus all of the studios have really been just banking on these bigger movies, which kind of killed the mid-level movie. The movie that didn't really cost that much to put out, but still had an engaging storyline and was still good and innovative.
There is a huge market for that. I think people are dying for just normal movies, romantic comedies, regular comedies. When's the last time we had an actual comedy come out?
Yeah.
People are chomping at the bit for this, and Hollywood doesn't care. They're just all about these major, wasting so much money on a gamble, and audiences are rejecting them. So that's for another day.
A lot of that has to do with writers' strikes and everything. Like, you've basically made it impossible to make money on a movie because you've guaranteed that the production of a movie has to be at least a certain amount of money. And if it's not going to be a tentpole movie, nobody's really willing to waste that much money on a possible dud.
Yeah. So I did think of a few live action kids films that didn't necessarily have an animated co-star or lead. Alexander and the Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. Stranger Things. Now, this isn't a movie, but I mention it just briefly because it's really meant for adults, and it's meant to capitalize on the nostalgia of the 80s, where you had these kid-centric films, but it's clearly geared to adults. So that's kind of just like an asterisk next to it.
Yeah.
And then the Disney Channel original movies.
Yes.
For sure. So if you think of those were a big deal.
I think that's where most of them went.
Disney just kind of took over and just started doing those exclusively.
Yeah. And it was no longer on home video. It was, we're just going to put them in front of the TV. So you get like High School Musical. And that's an older version. But it was one of those that kind of took over the scene and kind of set the trend of making that era something on Disney. On the Disney Channel. I don't even know if they would even have that now. Like, even on Disney Plus, when they throw out these other movies, it's like, I don't feel the need to watch any of them. I mean, maybe I'm just, at a different, I don't know. Kids today watch YouTube, so it's a very different world of how things are made, which is, it's great because you're getting some people that are able to make content and get many eyes on it without having to go into the gatekeepers, but it's just a different world. It's completely different.
It's sad. So let's talk about reasons why. There's a few reasons proposed, and let's get to the bottom of this. Okay.
Yeah.
Chelsea and Morgan are on the case. So one reason is, and I don't ascribe to this, kids don't go on unattended adventures anymore. They just don't go out and explore. They don't go and ride their bike and they disappear for 4 hours. So therefore, these movies don't make sense. And I saw one person wrote, the contemporary market sees this concept of kids going away on their bikes for hours at a time as a period piece. And that just broke my heart, and I died inside.
Yeah.
That kids going and playing is a period piece. Oh my gosh. No.
To an extent, it depends on the age group that you're in and also the area that you're in. So if you live in like a good area that doesn't have a lot of crime, that you feel like, okay, I can let my kids go play at the neighborhood park, great. But if you don't live in one of those, I guess, it's hard.
A lot of parents don't do that. They don't let their kids just go and play.
That's true.
Even when you're saying that, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'd let my kids do that, just because you don't know who's out there. That's the sad thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I don't think that's a reason why these died. Like, not all of these movies were just like adventure movies. They weren't like The Sandlot and The Goonies, where the kids just go and play for hours at a time, and live in their own world.
Even that, like, how many kids were writing a blank check? Like none of these were real.
Yeah.
So like to say that they have to be able to relate to these stories is like, no.
So kind of a subset of this is that there's no space for kids anymore. There's no, kid era stuff. Meaning, for example, teens, like tweens. Tweens don't have a place to shop anymore. There's this big issue right now at Sephora where these 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds are going into Sephora and completely just destroying all of the makeup counters and the testing kits because they're like unhinged animals that are just let loose and they don't know how to behave. And it's because, well, they're on YouTube and they see all these YouTubers talking about makeup. And so the tweens are leveling themselves up and they're wanting to adult things. Like they're going to these stores and they're wanting to buy stuff with retinol in it, which is harsh chemical for aging skin to help with wrinkles. And they think they need it because they're 10 and it's just a disaster. But they don't have the Limited 2 or the Justice stores or these Claire's kind of is around, but there were certain kid designation spots that you could go to. And those don't really, according to proposals, those don't exist anymore. And the same thing with media. There's not really kids media anymore. There's just media and kids, go onto YouTube and they watch Minecraft videos. And
that and also just the easy accessibility of porn. Like that really messes with kids. It messes with adults. It messes with everybody. But specifically with kids, like it's getting younger and younger that they are the first encounter with it. That'll ruin a kid. That'll ruin an adult. That'll ruin everybody. So, parental locks on those things, people.
Yeah.
But like, that's a problem as far as like, okay, is this a thing that's, making...
I don't think that's the main reason. I think if there were good kids movies out there, kids would go out of their way to see them. Families would take them because I take my kids to see, we went and saw Kung Fu Panda 4 last week. They didn't see it with me when we saw it. And they were so excited and they loved it. So this next one and this one I'm going to discredit. I think the last one probably is the reason, but it got too expensive. Budgets got too big, and specifically kid actors and the rules with working with kid actors. There's got to be too much. They're hard to work with. And I'm like, no, if there were money involved or if there was a market, there was a desire, Hollywood would make a way.
Yeah.
For good or bad.
For good or bad. That's the key of that one. Especially since recently there was this big documentary that came out on HBO for that kind of expose of Nickelodeon kids television and just kind of the grossness that came out of that. So I can definitely see those as being concerns, especially with kid actors. But at the same time, I don't think that's not going to stop people from making the films.
No, they're going to work within the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think that is a factor. I think the big one, I think this is really it, unfortunately. What killed the radio star? Rise of animated movies. And as much as I don't like to admit it, but I think specifically computer animation, it's that 1995 on when we see they hit their peak and then they start going down. Why is that? And it's because animated movies became the new family movie. And all the resources and the money, because they saw there was so much money to be made with these and how successful they were, they went to those instead of producing these lower budget kid-driven live action films. They continued for a while, and we saw Spy Kids and Shark Boy and Lava Girl and all these other movies, right? They continued for a while, but then eventually the market kind of just dried out, and now we see this proliferation, like our last Nerdy Couch discussion episode. There's just so many animation studios now, and that's really where like the money and that's where the attention is. I think that's what it is. Unfortunately, it's animated movies kind of push them out of the market.
You're not wrong.
Well, thank you.
And especially at the time period, like the timing matches up, especially. So what you get in the 90s, mid 90s was when like Disney just became massive hits. You had The Lion King come out, you had all of these other movies. And then, Katzenberg broke off and said, hey, and let's make more of these studios. And then you had these Disney animators who became the big stars and were getting their own, there was more and more emphasis put on these movies because they were making mega bucks. And I do believe that the budgets, it does make a difference because once again, they're the mandated budgets because of all of the unions. It's going to go up and up and up. So you're not willing to put money into these smaller things for it to be a flop because it's going to cost the same amount either way. So they might as well put it into a movie that has, in their mind, more economic stability. And yeah, the animated movies is going to be higher up on that list, I'm going to say.
Yeah, that's why I think that even if we are veering into a live action version of this, it has an animated character. They can't let go of that crutch.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to have Clifford. It's going to have Peter Rabbit. It's going to have,
Sonic. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's an interesting little discussion. So I think we've figured it out. This is an animated podcast, and it turns out animation was the whodunit. They killed him with the candlestick in the observatory. Stinks, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
So what do you think of the future of these? Do you think there's maybe a comeback? Do you see these?
If it came back, it would be coming back in a very different. I mean, it has shifted completely. I don't think you'll ever get these again. You will get YouTube video stars, YouTube things, and that's where it all is right now. You have individual creators creating their own things and making money off of their own channels. But even with, YouTube video, it's so short-lived. So I don't even know.
You think of Chris Columbus, and this was his bread and butter. He did these kind of kids movies that were just great. And yeah, I saw that he did Percy Jackson, and he actually aged the characters up because he didn't want to work with kids. He just got burnt out with it, which I get it. Okay. Being with 4 kids all day, it's tiring, but I just wish a studio or a production company or someone would just come along and think of just something fun, like a Sandlot. It'd really be cool to see a little Sandlot again.
Yeah, it would. So, I mean, I do think that is something that could be brought in. I don't know, it's really hard to see what families are willing to do.
Hollywood is just in a terrible place right now, and they've done it to themselves. And of course, they're going to blame the pandemic, and they're going to blame all of these other factors. But really, they put their eggs in one big basket, and then eventually, and they just started doing crap after crap and remake after remake, and finally, the audience is thrown in the towel, and they're turning away, and they're just blaming, audiences don't go to movies anymore, families don't go to movies, people don't go to movies. That may be true to an extent, but people will go if you provide them something good to see.
Yeah, you're not
doing your end of the bargain, and they're not doing it to a level where there's just not as many movies released anymore. It's not like every week, okay, what are the 2-3 new movies that are coming out this week? It's like, is there even a movie coming out this week? I don't think so.
The movies that we're going to see are are the ones that they're bringing back.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. Especially in 2024, there's just such a drought of content. They're bringing back, right now, there's, the Shrek 2 20th anniversary did pretty well in theaters. Gosh. It got did a couple million. It beat out a lot. Yeah. It beat out all 3 of Disney's re-releases for Pixar that they had done is just icing on the cake. There's Disney's re-releasing for the 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace. And I'm excited to see that. Cool. I like that movie. Yeah. And I've always been a fan of the prequels. Never apologized for my love of the prequels. So I'm like, yeah, I want to go see that. So I'm going to go, and so.
Terrible writing though.
There's nothing going on as far as because of the writer strike and a lot of things. But again, they did this to themselves. If you would have had a lot of things in the hopper, small budget, mid-budget, large budget, if you would have diversified your portfolio, I think we would have been in a lot of better situation because they would have released these, smaller budget films. What is a small budget nowadays? 15 to 20, 30 million.
Just got greedy.
And, then they wouldn't be so high stakes. Right now, apparently Disney is sweating bullets. They have about 4 movies that have to do over $1 billion, and I don't see it happening. It's going to be, it's supposed to be Inside Out 2, Mufasa, Wolverine, Deadpool versus Wolverine.
Yeah. That'll do it.
And I think there's one more, but because it's rated R. There's only been one rated R film, and that's been Joker. So I don't know. I don't know if people will show up. But anyways, it's again, we always kind of go back to the state of the film. And I love theaters. I love going to theaters. I love supporting theaters. I love taking my family to theaters. I just love the whole theater experience. I don't think it's dead. I think people really enjoy going out still to an extent. Especially if it's something worthwhile. And I think they just need more content. And the problem is all the content has gone to streaming services versus theaters. Something needs to be done to make it a little bit more lucrative for these smaller budgets to, have a chance and then surprise us because there's nothing else out there. So anyway, interesting discussion.
Very interesting. Thank you for bringing this to my attention.
Yes.
And now I will go rewatch Blank Check.
Yes. in honor of this, everybody, use our Rotoscopers link, rotoscopers.com/Amazon, and go rent one for us, or even buy the DVD, buy the copy. You know, just go watch it and
Go watch it and
have
let
a
us
good
know how you
time of
like
the
it.
90s. That would be a patron episode that we could do, is where
Oh, that's funny.
we could, review Blank Check for the patrons. Since it's not animated, it has no animated components.
Right.
Yeah. Members only. So anyways, that's all we have for today. Let us know your thoughts. You can give us a call at rotoscopers.com/voicemails or 406-646-6575. Let us know your thoughts on this. We're going to be doing a big old voicemail episode coming up in the
this is
future.
episode 296. And for our 300th episode, we're wanting to do that. So
yes,
it's coming out quick.
Send in the voicemails. Send in the voicemails. Send in the voicemails.
Send in the clowns. Those happy, clappy clowns. All right, until next time,
we are the Rotoscopers. Well, because I was assuming we'd be able to go to the screening, but you're not going to be able to go to the screening. So, I mean, we'll play that by ear. Like, are you going to?
It's a possibility that I would be able to go see it while out there.
Yeah.
It's a possibility, but I don't know if it's going to come out in German or something. There'd be an interesting situation.
You let me know. That will be interesting. Yeah, you can shoot your international film experience. That'd be fun. So. We've never done Despicable Me or Despicable Me 2.
Oh, geez. Look at us. You hear that? She's whacking her tail. My dad just walked by, which is why she's like, hey,
hi,
it's him.
Hello.
Oh, hi.
Yeah.
Dun, dun. It's them. I know them. Happy feelings. Dogs are great.
All right, let's jump into this, because baby could wake up any moment, and that's the worst.
Let's do this.
All right.
That's the worst.
You've been listening to the Animation Addicts Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to help spread the word, be sure to share the podcast with your friends on social media. Just don't forget to tag us at Rotoscopers on Instagram and use the hashtag Animation Addicts. For all the links and full show notes for this episode, go to rotoscopers.com/podcast. Now, if you still can't get enough for your animation fix, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and visit rotoscopers.com for more animation news, reviews, and interviews. Thanks for listening.